folks. I'm joined today by an extra special guest, Vanessa Gibson, Director of Investment Climate at Costa Rica CINDE. Vanessa, how are you doing?
I am fine. Thank you very much for the space, Cesar.
It's a pleasure having you with us. So, Vanessa, a lot is said in everywhere, especially in Latin America, about what has to be done and what cannot be done to attract FDI. But very little is said about what a country can do to keep investors happy and to keep them investing in the country. And as far as I understand, that's part of your job description. You follow up on companies and investors and make sure that they're happy with Costa Rica. So considering that, I was wondering, okay, how does that follow-up process work? What do you do exactly?
Okay. So actually, it's very interesting because when we think about what a company would need to establish, everyone has a clear understanding of, okay, the company needs information, they need data, etc. But once the company is already up and running, what the company needs is someone to hold their hand through the process of them first landing and getting acquainted in the ecosystem. And further on, actually down the road, they become even more interested in someone to join their efforts to guarantee that the country meets the investment climate that it requires. So in my day-to-day and our team day-to-day, we are constantly in communication with companies. It means that we are having one-on-ones on an individual basis, but we are also coordinating a lot of initiatives in which we actually create what we call working groups. So we have working groups with general managers, we have working groups with HR managers, facility managers, you name it, where we're able as a level of an industry or even a specific segments of an industry convey messages regarding their challenges, regarding the opportunities, and obviously the collaboration that we need to kind of foster among companies to work jointly with government and other stakeholders in the ecosystem to alleviate and improve that investment climate that we are aiming for. So in our day-to-day, we are, as I said, we are receiving a lot of feedback, not just from companies, but also from the other participants of the ecosystem, where our role is basically to connect the dots and actually to offer a roadmap where the collaboration will take place and actually solve the issues that needs to be solved.
How often do you keep in contact specifically with companies or potential investors? On a weekly basis, once a month? How much? How often?
In our case, it really varies. We have companies that we have so many contacts within one company that I could easily say that we keep in communication with companies every day, because we're constantly in communication with the very diverse set of contacts that we have. As I said, there could be an issue with infrastructure, so we have facilities managers reaching out or us reaching out for some topic. We could be in the legal or the government affairs because there is some issue that we want to address. They reach out to us or we reach out to them. And actually, we're working groups, at least they meet every 8 weeks. So if it's not on a one-on-one basis, the different working groups, which we have around 16 of them, we will have at least a meeting per week of these working groups.
When companies are already in Costa Rica, what are the key aspects to follow up? What do you have to keep track of?
Well, most of the time we have to keep track of what are those elements that are critical for the operation. We could talk about services that they need to provide, public services. Mm-hmm. But mainly nowadays, our main topic of work with them is talent development. So we're talking about everything from exploring a specific profile or niche talent pool that we want to develop to align with the requirements of an industry, up to working sessions in which we are designing with the local academia a full career, full content of specialization programs that needs to be rolled out to actually close the gaps that we are finding in the talent pool. So it's very interesting, and the intensity varies pretty much on the maturity of the company. We still provide a lot of data because we also assist companies to close their reports that they are sending to corporates, meaning, oh, this is how the evolution of the marketplace, this is what's happening, so forth. So we constantly are sharing information and reports that they could use as part of that, reporting back to headquarters. But at the same time, we are working on the ground and fixing or aligning or complementing, all different type of initiatives that align with the requirements that companies are suggesting, or the areas in which we have a huge opportunity to improve the quality of the experience of the companies in country.
Vanessa, focusing on the topic of data, how do you guys earn the I guess we could say the trust of investors when it comes to hard information? Because in our experience, companies, especially foreign companies, are always concerned about not only the accuracy but also the veracity of data. So how do you guys manage that? How do you make sure that the company is convinced that this data is something you can trust?
Well, basically, we're utilizing official sources, primary sources. There is a department of research and monitoring within CINDE. So whenever we have a request of information where we do need strong backbone of data to be provided, they're the ones in charge of connecting with those primary sources of data, official data in many cases. But it's very interesting because then we also have become a generator of data ourselves. So to give you an example, with all the hybrid work model that many companies has been needed to implement, the key questions that we're receiving is how many of my peers are implementing hybrid work. So we will run mini surveys or small, surveys, and we become a source of data ourselves as well. Because we have the connections with all companies, we run the survey, we process the data. Obviously, we keep out the names of the companies, but we're able to process certain type of information that elsewhere are not available because of how novel the topic is or whatever. So we will also send out surveys that we gather information, we process, and they have taken as valid data and a good response to many of the questions they're asking to topics that are mostly market oriented.
What's the hardest part of keeping investors happy with the country? I mean, there's certainly, I'm sure there are many factors, but are there some common complaints that come up among investors and that you have to, that they are hard to deal with?
Well, actually, it's quite the obvious in the sense of companies are going at a speed rate, pretty much, speed of light, and the country itself is moving at a slower pace. So when we have companies expecting, for example, to diversify their operations in country, expecting to find a particular source of talent with specific niche of skills, this takes time to develop. It takes time for any country to redo, to reskill, to retrain the talent available, because that's the nature of talent development. But companies are seeking, almost in real time, they are aiming to find the talent that they're needing for the transformation of their operation overnight. So we have to keep the balance of what's real, what's feasible, what's doable, and also make them part of the solution itself, right? Because it's not just about, finding the right talent, but also with the right skill set, with the depth of knowledge that they need. So we bring them on board to be part of the process of finding the right solution, which makes them be more, familiar or also sensitive to the timing of a solution that we could implement in the local market.
From what I understand, CINDE it's pretty small for an IPA, and your team specifically is even smaller. Yet, from what I've read, from what I've been told, from hearing you speak, you guys are quite effective, very much so. And I was wondering, is there a link for IPAs at least when it comes to the size of your teams, of your staff, and the level of effectiveness? I mean, the smaller the team, the more effective the operations. Is there something there?
Well, I think I would say, and this is from my experience of benchmarking as well as exchanging best practices with other IPAs. One of the things that I think is characteristic for Costa Rica, and in this case CINDE, is that our efforts to attract investment is in a very specific sectors. So the level of specialization of the teams are pretty high in these 4 or 5 sectors that we're dealing with. When we compare with our other Ipas, right? Because they are part of the government, they are really spread out and thinning in terms of their effectiveness. Even though they are large organizations compared with us, but they are covering so many different industries and strategies and efforts of the government that in our case, we are very, very specialized. So we specialize in the corporate services, medical devices, advanced manufacturing, light manufacturing and food industry, and industrial and towards infrastructure. So the level of specialization that we are getting in our teams are pretty high. So we kind of leverage on that expertise to kind of fine tune those processes. If we're thinking about aftercare or supporting the companies, they are very, very streamlined. If we're talking about immigration, if we're talking about utilities, everything, we know, actually we anticipate some of the issues that the companies are having because we know exactly how they grow, how they evolve, what's next, etc.